It's House in Baltimore, a constant variety of sport. Sometimes you got to stay close to home and dial a 410 number, even though this guy has his feet in the sand and he's somewhere down in the pool in Jacksonville. The last time I saw you, Larry Rosen, senior executive producer of the Jacksonville Jaguars and our longtime friend from a decade-plus work here with the Ravens, you were celebrating a Philadelphia Eagles championship because your bloodline lies up there in Philly with the Eagles and the Phillies and the Flyers, and hey, you're from Philadelphia. You don't win much. So when you win, to the victor go the spoils. So you claim 3 franchises in this league, Rosen.
Well, last time you saw me, I was producing a neutral broadcast between the Patriots and Eagles, and the outcome was of no value to me one way or the other. But there were some old friends that were incredibly happy in that little post-game scenario, and it was fun. The confetti was green. You're on the sidelines, and they bring out 2 different canisters. You're going to get the blue or the green, and got the green confetti and hugged some old friends. It was a good show.
Now, look, man, people know you from Rave TV or whatever, and look, I'm not trying to, stroke your ego or anything like that, but let me just tell you a story. When I met Brian Baldinger, I guess it was 1999, I met Baldinger up at NFL Films, at the Vault. We actually met in Steve Sable's office, and I remember my first conversation with him. The thing I said to him, I said, what's your goal? What are you going to do with this radio, this? He's like, my goal is to call a Super Bowl. I want to call a Super Bowl. He said, I didn't play in one. If I'm going to broadcast, you want to broadcast in the biggest game. I want to be John Madden, right? I want to do that. I tell you what, man, you have now done a couple of Super Bowls at the highest point in your level. I would say that if you are the dude running all the scoreboards and all the video in the modern era, to do it at one Super Bowl would be a really big deal. And, I see your work. We're Facebook friends. This is something you don't brag on much, but I want to give you a chance to brag on it. And then I want to talk to you about it because I think it is the most unique football game of the year. And I know not everyone gets to go to Super Bowls 25 times like I have, but it's a really weird crowd. And for what you do, it's such a big part of playing both teams' fight songs, which is the only time of the year I think you'll ever hear that in an NFL game. Right, Larry?
Well, thanks for that. And it is true. But I kind of had a philosophy. I went to the Super Bowl with the Ravens my first year, and when I was asked to come, in 06, 07, I was like, no, thank you, I'm only going to come when the Ravens are there. I was very parochial to my football team, and of course went when we won our second one, and they asked me again as I kind of transitioned into Jaguars, and I said, you know what, Super Bowl is a really incredible thing. Producing a neutral game with the most talented guys in my field, why not? And I've done the last few just for the stadium folks, the people that are paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and the show that you get on the air at home is decidedly different than the show that you get in the venue, as you know.
Well, in the venue, you get Scott Hansen, right? Billick did it in Dallas a couple years ago, and in-house, it's a big deal what you're doing there. I'm not, I get there early, and I'm the first guy in the stadium because I want to beat the security and the weather and the lines and the mess. So I watch it all for 4 hours before the game, right?
Yeah, and we were told, we had a little thing with Goodell maybe Wednesday saying, look, a lot of the tailgates just aren't going to happen. It's -7. Let's open the stadium a couple of hours early, put on the Sting concert, put on some of the things going over at Experience, do live shots, meet Hall of Famers, show the tee and the game ball and meet the refs and do all that stuff. So we started doing live elements 4.5 hours before kickoff, and there was already 15,000 people in the building. So as you kind of ramp up, and you can feel that in your guts as the game gets closer, building gets louder, things get more exciting or whatever. And we had started way, way early, and we're real deeply into it. And the crowd was tremendous. Everybody was totally, into all the little elements we were doing to kind of get you ready for football. And then once the game starts, we've got Hall of Famers live. We've got Alan Page doing like a Vikings kind of tribute, and bring out the Lombardi Trophy and show that to the fans for the first time with a 2-minute warning. I mean, it's just really cool stuff we get to do. And as I've told you before, when you do television, as opposed to when you do stadium, if they like what you're doing in a tenth of a second because you get the live reaction. So that kind of was the change for me when we started doing really great stuff in stadium. And that was really the Modells that were super ahead of the curve, that the stadium show had to be its own special element. and getting to do that over the last, full generation, that's really evolved into its own profession. And it's really a lot of fun. I got 15 minutes on the sidelines with Ray Lewis. It was my favorite, football player, one of my favorite people, close friend. And he's being introduced as a Hall of Famer, and I'm the guy on the sidelines putting the earpiece on and having the chat about how the call came and how he's feeling, and seeing Canton and having the big hug. And that's really just an incredibly wonderful experience.
He is Larry Rosen. He does not tweet, but he is a senior executive producer with the Jacksonville Jaguars, doing a lot of their stadium work. We've talked about Wembley. Larry comes on 3-4 times a year. Look, I had a lot of the Philly guys on 2 weeks ago. I had a little downtime after the Super Bowl. I got sick as a dog. I came back. I talked to Eskin, and I talked to my buddy Matt Lombardo up there and the guys that cover the team. And as you well know, I first time in my life, in my adult life, that I left the party and went straight to the airport. My wife and I, we left the Eagles party at 2:30 in the morning. We sort of did an all-nighter with Joe Douglas and T.J. McCrate and Andy Weidel and Jimmy Schwartz and Kathy Schwartz and people that are near and dear to me. Torrey Smith was the last guy I saw on the way out of the building, and we took a selfie with Mike Trout at 2 a.m. It was one of those nights, and I'm not an Eagles fan, but it's easy to root for people you truly care about, you truly like, the people you've collected in the world. But for you, it was above and beyond that. I mean, dude, you got a couple of rings. You've got pelts on the wall. You've produced, award-winning this and that and doing the Super Bowl. But there was something, you had tears in your eyes under the stadium with me and my wife. You got to see my wife, too, which you were working your tail off all week. I was working my tail off out at the mall. I don't think we were ever in the same room at the same time until after the game. And, like, the Philly thing means something to everyone in your world because you spent, the first, 40, 50 years of your life in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, just a little funny aside that no one would care about but me, but I played on the same softball team with Jeff Lurie for a number of years in suburban Philadelphia. There was a catcher that used to catch me in the semi-pro leagues down in South Philly that asked me, in my 40s, you still feel like playing, you want to play on this team, and it was Jeff Lurie's team, and Jeff was the shortstop and led off. I pitched and played center field. We were together Sunday mornings, springs and summers for a number of years. And I'd come up from Baltimore on a Sunday morning just to play softball because I really liked that team. And Jeff's a really good man. I speak to him about an owner compared to Bisciotti or Kahn or any, not any of those elements, just as a guy that you're on a softball team with that's going to dive into second base on a Sunday morning because he wants to be safe for his teammates. I really like Jeff a lot. So I was thrilled for Jeff, for Scott Plavner, for the guys that I kind of knew that have waited their whole lives. And all of my best friends are tweeting and texting from Super Bowl parties. I'm over in Vineland with 25 guys and we're freaking out. We just saw you on the sidelines. So, you can't help it. It's your profession, but they're your people. My 88-year-old mom was watching the game and called me and said, "We won, honey."
Well, I mean, when my mom did that when we won in Tampa, I remember distinctly getting on a tram and my mom was, screaming, crying, hooting and hollering, and and she was 80 whatever at the time, right? So, I think that it does resonate and it does it makes it so special. I mean, Tampa still will always be special, New Orleans, and all of that. But for these Philadelphia people, and I had some fun with Joe Douglas and Jim Schwartz. My Facebook pictures of, picture me with the trophy, kind of being like, well, if we can't win, at least let your friends win. These guys are your friends too, and maybe not Schwartz because I don't know that your ships crossed with the Ravens, but certainly Joe Douglas and Andy Weidel and Torrey Smith and Timmy Jernigan and all these people that we all sort of knew. You do feel good for guys when they win, even though it's Philadelphia. And I have my problems with those cheesesteak eaters up there, Larry, because I've sat up there at Flyers and Phillies and Sixers games and whatnot. You know what a tough crowd it can be, and they don't really want anybody on the outside to like them. But this was a great story. I mean, all the way around, top to bottom, in every way. It was a good thing for the league, and you and I making our money through the league. It was good to have a good ending because it was a choppy season, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And for me, of the group that you named, Torrey Smith was just such a good and kind and loving soul for the years that we were together. Just to have a hug at 4:30 pregame and, 2 minutes or whatever and back to work, and Torrey's going to get a ring. It's that. I wanted to share something with you that was very interesting if you have a minute.
No, well, you know what we do here, Larry? This is what we do. We tell stories. So
cool.
I'll put you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a drink of my coffee here in my Howard Bank mug and plug my sponsor, and I'm going to let you tell me a story.
So over the last year, we did Wembley. You know, we've been network games, went to the championship game, Super Bowl Hall of Fame, ran into and had moments with John Ogden, Ray Lewis, Deion Sanders, arguably 3 of the top 50 players in the history of football. And in each of those occasions, the first one was J.O., how you feeling? What's your body like? You know, you got a collective 45, 50 years in the NFL. You look good. You're prime of your life. Nestor, each of those 3 guys had the exact same answer. My body is fine except for turf toe. The only thing that bothers me, Ray, wrist, shoulder, hamstring, the surgeries, J.O., everything he went through, Deion, everything he went through. All 3 of them said they wake up in the morning and the thing that bothers them still is the turf toe. J.O. says he's walking golf courses, but he can't run golf courses. All because, and it's amazing, these are world-class athletes, 300-pound guys, 260, etc. And that one little thing of getting that toe bent under or that toe bent back, years out of the game, that's the legacy. That's what they carry. No concussion, you know, able to do everything else. It's turf toe that all 3 of them said pains them every day when they wake up. And I thought that was pretty amazing.
It's kind of like an Aesop tale, right? When it's a guy like J.O., right? It's like the smallest thing on the biggest guy hurts the most, right? Literally.
Isn't that amazing? You know, and you watch Baryshnikov play left tackle, and you watch Ray close ground or whatever, and you just always, and I remember talking, you just hope that the guys would get out clean, you know, get out so you can still enjoy your kids and enjoy your life. You're going to be in your mid-30s if you're lucky. You got your whole life ahead of you. And you go, how you feeling? How's every day? You know, what's it feel like when you get out of bed? And it's turf toe. So guys out there, if you can do something for turf toe for these Hall of Famers, there's a market for your services.
Here's Larry Rosen. His team did better than our team did this year. He's with the Jacksonville Jaguars, running scoreboards on 2 continents as well as the Super Bowl and all of the in-house production. And you know him, of course, from Rave TV. He's one of my favorites. And, of course, he's from Philadelphia now in Jacksonville doing that thing. You know, I'll say this for Ray Lewis and your relationship there, and you talk about turf toe and what went wrong in guys' careers. Certainly Tony Baselli, who sat with us Super Bowl week, who I know you know very well and do a lot of production work with him, there's a hell of a case to be made for him. The Hall of Fames, you know, I've even talked to the guys in the room. They feel like it's gotten a little wayward with putting guys in right away, whether it's Moss, whether it's T.O., whether it's Ray Lewis. Next year it'll be Ed Reed and Palomalu. That, you know, and I know Ira Kaufman's upset that John Lynch didn't get in, and I'm sure everybody in Jacksonville. It would be important to the Jaguars organization to get Baselli in. That would be a major, major thing for your franchise, right?
Oh, no question. And he's a good dude. He does radio. He does Westwood One national radio. So he's in the building, you know, several days a week, looking at film. Great to talk to. The only thing with Tony is he got hurt and didn't want to play on one arm. So, you know, didn't give it that extra couple of years. Almost for Raven fans, kind of the Peter Boulware syndrome. When Peter got down to one arm, you give Peter 30 or 40 more sacks over a couple of years, and he's in the conversation. And that kind of is what Tony went through. It seemed like the momentum was in favor of Tony. He kind of moved up. He was deep in the conversation for the last half hour or so before they, you know, came up with the final group. And I think he'll get in. And, again, when you're like Ray was the flagship guy, J.O. was the flagship guy for the Ravens, Baselli's the flagship guy here in Jacksonville. And really, there's not a second candidate. You know, Brunell would be next, and he's not at that Hall of Fame level. Maybe McCardle or whatever. So it would absolutely be huge. First guy in the Ring of Honor would be first guy in the Hall of Fame. It would mean a lot, and it would be nice for him. He's a really nice guy. He's a good dude.
Larry, I'm going to be at the Combine all week out in Indianapolis with Luke, and, you know, a lot of years Jacksonville always sits on that 3rd pick, 4th pick, 5th pick. I mean, I don't need to tell you, the Jaguars have stunk for a long time, and there have been different coaches and different scouts and different leaders and all that stuff. Boy, this is a different sense and a different smell to the Jaguars as we go to Indy this week, where they came close to getting a pelt. You've been involved in all of this and seen this transition through these players that have come from the combine and come from the draft now, grow up a little bit. And the Bortles thing really leads. It's the lead story of the combine week, because that was something a lot of folks wondered, that if Blake Bortles hit the market, or whether, obviously Cousins is on the market right now, but Smith isn't, and different names have moved around a little bit, but the Jaguars sort of set the market by saying, yeah, we're all in on Blake Bortles, and I know you do work there and probably have to make that case one way or another because it's in your best interest to make that case, but this, on the outside, may be interesting that the Jaguars remarried Blake Bortles this week.
Well, if you look at the group of receivers that Blake had in the championship game, name a couple for me. You know what I'm saying? D.D. Westbrook, Keenan Cole, O'Shaughnessy at tight end. The Jaguars have a top 10 receiver that sat out for the year. They have the one receiver that had real chemistry with Bortles sat out for the year, and he's Allen Robinson. So theoretically, if you bring the defense back, you might lose the nickel corner. Aaron Colvin will probably get starter money somewhere else, but you're keeping that defense together. At least 10 of the starters will be back. A little bit of an upgrade on the line, a little bit of help at tight end because Mercedes Lewis is getting older. And you bring back Allen Robinson. The one ball, again, as not an analyst, just play one on TV. The Blake's best ball is the back shoulder. He throws a beautiful back shoulder fade, and A-Rob's best route on man is back shoulder. So if you bring back Allen Robinson with a Leonard Fournette, and you want to drop that safety down in the box because you're worried about Fournette, now you're going to go man up on Allen Robinson, and he's going to throw back shoulder fades all day. So there's a scenario that says what Blake does well is what the team needs Blake to do. He runs well. He's fearless. He doesn't care about his stats. He will never be the most accurate thrower in the history of football, but he's in the classroom, subrogated the ego, let everybody say that he stunk, didn't really care, went about his business. So for all of us in the building that he's been kind and cool and cooperative and all those words, you're thrilled for Blake. Knock your socks off. Fourth year, started making your moves. We got close enough to sniff at it. Why would you mess with that chemistry when you're getting a top 10 receiver back? So you see what Coughlin and Marone and Caldwell, you see the theory where they think they're going with the group, and you can buy in because they just got you to a championship game. Why not?
Larry Rosen is the senior executive producer for the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as Super Bowls, and we'll have another Super Bowl coming up in 49 weeks now, or whatever it is. And the couple of weeks off are now done, and here we go, dude. Combine, Indy, draft, free agency, schedule's going to get all of that stuff is now ahead of us. Some thoughts about the combine and this thing and how it's changed, and how much a guy like you, and I consider you, in the 1 to 10 school of layman football and not coaching it but being involved in it, I put you to 9.95. I'm assuming you're watching a lot of combine this week because the right player in this draft for the Jaguars, or the right couple of players, would mean the difference between a Super Bowl for you in the next 3 to 5 years, right?
Well, you'll get a kick out of it because, as you had said earlier, my 3 years here, you're picking 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Now you're picking 29th, and a number of people have said, well, what was it like up in Baltimore? There were so many years where you guys were picking that late, and your whole draft party was kind of a little bit of a snooze fest because, you're not drafting until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning.
And then Ozzie would deal back into the second round.
Yeah. As I said, there were a couple of years in that position where I remember talking to, Eric DaCosta, who's, stone cold brilliant and was a very good friend and enjoyed his work, where at 28, 29, 30, do you pick the 7th wide receiver, the 6th left tackle, or do you pick the 1st left guard and get Ben Grubbs for 7 years? Or do you pick the 1st tight end and get Todd Heap for 8 years? So, as the Ravens were always magnificent at taking that lower, profile position, but a higher rated player across the board at that 28, 29, because you're not going to make the same splash that you're going to make at 3, 4, or 5 with a QB or a wide receiver or whatever. So that's kind of the history that I have when the Ravens were drafting late. So you're looking at a kind of a different group of players. There's a couple of tight ends I know they like. There's a couple of interior linemen I know they like. I don't think they go for, your backup quarterback at that pick. it's fun to be at a spot where you're taking the best guy on the board and you don't have 7 or 8 different needs that you must fill immediately. But, picking at that real late first round changes your perspective an awful lot, and you've seen the way the Ravens have handled it.
Well, maybe this will be the year the Jaguars don't win the draft, right? I mean, literally, they shouldn't win the draft this year.
Exactly right. And you don't need to win free agency, just need to keep winning some football games.
Well, you had a hell of a year and, took us behind the woodshed over there in London, and it's always good to visit with you. It was nice to see a smile on your face on behalf of your brethren and your people up there in Filthy back on Super Bowl Sunday. We'll stay in touch throughout the season, and who knows, maybe a little trip down to Jacksonville. I'll get myself back in your pool down there this year.
Love to see you. Hardest working man in radio. Keep your act together. Enjoy Indy and stay in touch.
Hey, one day I'm going to make the cocktail party down there because everyone keeps inviting me. One day.
That is a blast. That is a blast. I'm telling you, you'd love it.
I know. Everybody tells me that. So it's on the bucket list. It's just moved down a little bit, but we'll get it together. Larry Rosen, Senior Executive Producer of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can find the beginning of that and all of our interviews in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. All of our broadcasts this week from Indianapolis brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to be the best at everything they do. Branches throughout Baltimore and Maryland, the unique hands-on approach to banking. And I've got my Howard Bank mug here in studio on our Facebook Live and our YouTube WNSTV channel. I also got my Pizza John's hat. They gave me a hat with the pizza last week, so I don't just get the food now, I get the swag, which is nice because I love supporting my sponsors. My mom's favorite, my wife's favorite pizza. It's down in Essex. You know where it is. If you've never been to Pizza John's, they want to meet you. If you're out on the west side, the south side, you don't know the legend of Essex, you need to get over there. They've been doing it for 50 years. Go find out why. They got ice cream now, a little ice cream parlor right there in the middle of Pizza John's. Back Riverneck Road in Essex. The hat says it all. Also, Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. You'll pass a bunch of them on the way down to Pizza John's as well. Tasty coffee, the best fried chicken anywhere. Gas up. Make sure you're using the Rofo app. Download that onto your phone when you're gassing up. You get those points, and they add up very, very quickly. And before you know it, you'll be getting free Western fries and free fried chicken, an 8-piece. You can, watch the draft in April. Gas up, Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. And our sponsorship with the Maryland Jockey Club has begun. The entries on the front of our website and on our newspaper each and every morning. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Cure those winter blues. They are racing at Laurel this weekend. Check out the entries now at WNST.net. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We're in Indy all week. Button up. It's football season again. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.